Hola clase. Today we're going to talk about using tener que and the infinitive to talk about things that you have to do. Or as your book says, expressing obligation. Okay. And if you want to look at the pages in your book that kind of correspond, those are going to be 157 hasta 159. So 157 to 159. And just so you know, guys, I'm kind of filming this at night. So if you hear some crickets in the background or whatever, that's what's going on because they seem pretty loud tonight. Okay, so clase, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about tener que and tener itself. Okay, so we use tener. Tener means to have. And in capítulo 5, we're going to end up talking more about expressions that we use with tener. But we're going to focus today on tener que. And tener que plus the infinitive, el infinitivo, right, which is a unconjugated verb, okay? So a verb that we have not messed with yet. It still has the AR, ER, or IR attached. That's an infinitive, okay? So we use tener que with that infinitive when we want to talk about something that we have to do. Okay, so it usually translates as I have to do something. So if you look at this little guy right here, he says, tengo que terminar esta pintura para las 5 de la tarde. So I have to finish this painting by 5 o'clock, right? So he's only got a couple hours to go. Doesn't look like he's doing very well. Okay, so clase, first things first, you need to know how to conjugate tener. So we will conjugate tener. That is the verb you conjugate, okay, based on who the subject of the sentence is. So we've got yo tengo, tú tienes, él, ella, usted tiene, nosotros tenemos, vosotros tenéis, which you don't have to worry about in this class, and ustedes, ellos, ellas tienen. Okay, so based on the subject, you're going to use a conjugation of tener. We're going to use the word que. You've got to have your que. And then you are going to use whatever infinitive you need. So I might say, yo tengo que estudiar, right? I have to study. Okay. Tengo que estudiar para el examen de español. I have to study for the Spanish exam, right? Okay, so if I wanted to say I have to clean the garage. So think about this for a moment. If you need to pause, pause it. If you've got the vocab to do this, just to practice, okay? So I have to clean the garage. So what we're gonna do, we've got to first think about what form of tener do I need to use with I, right? And that's going to be tengo, okay? Then you're gonna use your que, and then you need your verb for to clean, which you're not gonna conjugate, right? So tengo que limpiar el garaje. Do not forget that que. What if I ask the question, do you have to study a lot? So remember, we can use this tener as a yes or no question, right? Remember, we don't have to look up do or does. We just need to conjugate tener. So in this case, we're going to assume the you is informal. So what conjugation of tener would you use for you? Okay. And of course, that would be tienes. Right? And then we need to put our que, and then we've got to study. So what's our verb for study? Okay, did you come up with it? Tienes que estudiar mucho. Okay. Here's one last one, and hopefully it will not get cut off at the bottom because sometimes they do. Unfortunately, my screen that I can capture, it won't let me capture all of it. Okay, so we have to prepare the food. So what's the we form or the nosotros form of tener? Right, it's tenemos. Make sure you use your que. And then, right, you need the verb for to prepare. What's that verb? Tenemos que preparar la comida. So let's do a little more practice. ¿Qué tiene que hacer Raquel por la mañana? So what does Raquel have to do in the morning? ¿Qué tiene que hacer? Right? So that's might be a normal question. What do you have to do? So número uno, right? And again, if you need to pause and go through these, that's fine. So it looks like Raquel is taking a shower, right? So remember, Raquel is our subject, so we have to think about the form of tener you would use for that. And we would say, tiene que ducharse, right? So we've got our reflexive. It is possible to use a reflexive. You're not going to conjugate the reflexive, and you need to keep your pronoun on there, okay? And in this case, we keep the pronoun se because we're talking about Raquel. Okay, so what is she doing next? ¿Qué tiene que hacer Raquel ahora? Right? What does she have to do now? Okay. So what's she doing here? Tiene que secarse. Tiene que secarse. Okay, our next one. Right? Looks like she's getting dressed. So, ¿qué tiene que hacer Raquel ahora? Tiene que vestirse. Tiene que vestirse. Okay, número 4. Now she looks like she's putting on makeup. So how would we say that? Tiene que maquillarse. Muy bien. And the last one. What is Raquel doing now? Right? What is she doing now? Tiene que desayunar. Tiene que desayunar. So we did use quite a few of these reflexives here, but remember, it's also possible to use tener que with a verb that is not reflexive. So any type of verb that you have, you just have to leave it in the infinitive form. Okay, so here are some questions for you. ¿Qué tienes que hacer este fin de semana? What do you have to do this weekend? ¿Tienes que estudiar, limpiar, trabajar? What do you have to do? Tienes que hacer la tarea para la clase de español, ¿no? Right? You need to do your homework for Spanish class. Tienes que hacer la tarea. Right? Maybe you have to cocinar. There we go. There's our hacer la tarea, in case you were wondering how that's spelled. Tal vez lavar el coche. Right? Ir a algún parte. Right? Maybe go to some place. Right? Okay, clase. So that's it for tener que. Again, as always, let me know if you have any questions. Adiós, clase.